The Human Rights Watch report basically sets out why the Israeli military cannot rely on its claim that it is evacuating Palestinians in Gaza safely. What we did is essentially show that this claim is false. Instead, Israel is forcibly displacing the population, which is a war crime, and we've documented multiple war crimes of forced displacement that amount to a crime against humanity. Under the laws of war, um, an occupying power is allowed to move people in times of conflict if it is for an imperative military reason or for their security. But this is a very, very high threshold imperative military reason, and Israel must show in every instance that it had no other option but to displace people. Now, even if it does have an imperative military reason or there is a security necessity, if it wants to do this lawfully, it has to move people safely. But what our report shows instead is that people were put in harm's way. The evacuation system issued evacuation orders that were inconsistent, full of errors, didn't give people enough time to leave. And most cruelly, there were attacks along the evacuation routes that people were told to take and attacks in safe zones, both of which we verified. Israel also should have provided for the displaced population. You're required to provide food, water, shelter, not separate families. And instead, we have seen that Israel has used starvation as a weapon of war. And now we know that famine is imminent in North Gaza. There is nowhere safe. Safe zones changed from one day to the next. They became combat zones. People were confused, and all the evacuation system did was actually sow terror, confusion, and anxiety in the population. And then, lastly, and I'll finish with this, crucially, the requirement about evacuating a population, lawfully, means also returning people to their places of origin as soon as hostilities have ended. And instead, what we've shown is that the Gaza Strip is largely uninhabitable because of the widespread destruction that Israel has basically done either recklessly as a result of its military campaign, or once it has taken control of areas, it has bulldozed, razed, and cleared land, especially in these buffer zones and security corridors where we say it amounts to ethnic cleansing because it is clear that no one will be able to return there. So, no, there are no safe areas. There are no safe zones in Gaza. The Al-Mawasi humanitarian zone, so-called humanitarian zone, which Israel now continuously tells people to go to, its boundaries changed at least 14 times over the last year. We've seen safe zones change from one day to the next. They go from being a safe zone, a safe area, to a combat zone, which leaves people, terrified and confused that they will have to. And, most people have been displaced multiple times. They can't rely on somewhere remaining safe. I think it's something like nearly 80% of the Gaza Strip is now under evacuation orders, and it's been that way for, quite some time. I mean, Israel can't rely on this justification that it is moving people for their safety and it is doing in a safe way if there's nowhere for people to go, and it bombs the routes and attacks the areas it tells people to take refuge in. It just simply doesn't add up.